Rasheeda Frost's arrival appeared to freeze the room, and the sparkle in her eye conveyed a message of happiness, optimism, and rebirth. Her voice was filled with enthusiasm as she announced to everyone that she was expecting Kirk Frost's kid once more. It had not been an easy one, but one that she had fought for. This was not just a straightforward declaration for Rasheeda. It was a triumph, evidence of her perseverance and belief in love. The good news is that Kirk and I are expecting another child. The couple's marriage had been fraught with difficulties, including betrayals, miscommunications, and the weight of their complex past, despite the chaos of their past. Nevertheless, they seemed ready to work together again to produce something lovely. In front of flashing cameras, Rasheeda smiled, and her eyes glistened with passion as she spoke to the media.
But you haven't signed anything and he hasn't signed anything yet.
No.
Is that because are you guys still trying to work it out, or does it just make more sense for you guys to just be separated right now?
Well, the thing is, we've sat and had a conversation about trying to maybe not do it through attorneys and see if we can come to some type of agreement, that way. And at the same time, I also feel like, and it's not even the point of just trying to work it out, but I'm also like, I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, I pretty much kind of got the information, and am I ready to serve him with these papers? This is the first time something like this has happened in our marriage, and I'm feeling like, okay, is the answer immediately, although it's all this crazy stuff that's happened, is the answer immediately divorce, step into this place, or is it let's try to figure out if we're going to just separate and try to work out percentages, things like to that nature. So that's kind of where it is right now, just maybe considering not having to do an actual divorce, but just at this moment, but just figuring out what we want to do and see if we want to go ahead and take it to the divorce line later, or that may not be the case. As of right now, who's to say? My main concern ain't even just the fact of filing the divorce. It's just about trying to, stay focused, not overstress myself, and get ready for this baby, whether he's a part of the situation or not.
Good.
Though the path has been challenging, we are persevering. This baby is a blessing, and our love is stronger than ever. Kirk's position standing beside her, his proud smile reflected hers, and he came to the realization that all of his past transgressions that had once pushed Rasheeda to the edge of despair had ultimately been worthwhile. A fresh chapter in their complicated relationship and hope for the future were represented by this kid, which demonstrated their commitment to strengthening their bond and finding solutions to their issues. As soon as word spread, social media was ablaze with reactions, with friends, fans, and critics all contributing their thoughts. People congratulated the couple and cheered them on for conquering their obstacles, because they had survived the storm together and were forward to the future. Rasheeda and Kirk didn't care what other people thought. Even though they were thrilled to hear the news, not everyone was. In fact, Jasmine, the woman who had contributed significantly to the distressing marriage crisis that engulfed Kirk and Rasheeda. The fact that Jasmine had joined their lives years prior and brought a flurry of drama and emotions with her meant that Kirk and Rasheeda's relationship had always been intricate. The two had been at odds about the child's paternity, and although they had finally made up, the unresolved emotions and wounds from the past remained. At one time, Jasmine had convinced herself that she would be chosen by Kirk and that they would have a close relationship. Shared was more than a passing fling, but that fantasy had slowly crumbled over time. Her connection with Kirk had never been the idyllic situation she had envisioned, and the reality had been far more agonizing than she had ever imagined. Since Rasheeda's declaration, the past, the betrayal, and the hope that was lost have all collapsed in a torrent of intense pain as reality set in. Kirk was the one Jasmine had been hoping for years, and finally, they were together. Kirk and she celebrated a new baby together, and Rasheeda was left to deal with the aftermath of her own dashed hopes. Since she had given so much of herself to Kirk, and it ultimately wasn't enough, the family she had previously dreamed of starting with him was now being created somewhere else. Jasmine sobbed in secret, away from the spotlight and cameras. She sat alone in her apartment, gripping her phone with trembling hands as she read through the countless texts from friends offering their condolences and others from strangers who, even if they were not aware of the entire story, they wanted to take a side. It didn't matter. It didn't change the fact that Kirk had gone on, or more importantly, that she had fallen in love with Rasheeda. It reminded her of the moments when Kirk had promised to support her, when she believed he truly cared. But now it all seemed like a distant fantasy, a chapter that had been there for a long time. Rasheeda had risen to the occasion and sought Kirk's love in ways Jasmine could never have. She had attempted to stay tough and go on, but her emotions were unbridled. Her entire progress over the years seemed to be undone by the statement that was just delivered. The pain was too intense. This wasn't supposed to be this way, she cried and mumbled. She now just had her shattered heart and the pain of rejection. But I had hoped for everything, including a family of my own. The fact that Kirk's attention had always been like a pen swinging from one lady to another, leaving her in between, was now clear to her. She was the one who was overlooked, the one who made the error, the one who was forgotten. Jasmine cried, but she knew in her heart that this was only another heartbreaking chapter in her story, and that it would end like all others. The length of time it would take to heal from this wound was uncertain to her, but she was certain that her love for Kirk would never be sufficient to persuade him to pick her. In the meantime, Rasheeda and Kirk were pursuing their goals with optimism. Despite their past struggles, they were doing what they had always known was possible, repairing the damage and starting a family. Their connection and acceptance of their future together demonstrated the two women's differences once more, and they felt as though they had all they needed to complete their family after learning of their upcoming baby. It served as a moment for both remembrance and celebration of all that had passed, yet even seemingly insurmountable wounds can be healed with time. Jasmine's own broken dreams were tearing her apart, while Rasheeda was happy with the life she had built. Craig and Rasheeda's. Jasmine was only beginning her adventure, while the rest of the world watched Rasheeda and Kirk embrace their happiness. In the end, she would have to let go of the hurt that had shaped so much of her life, learn to live with the lessons of the past, and forge her own progress.